Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on top 5 ways to originate new business with non-QM. Now, we want this presentation to be as interactive and engaging as possible. So as we're going through it, as questions come up, please use the chat function to ask them, and I will give it to the presenters. With that, I'm going to hand it over to today's speakers. Take it away, Jeremy.
Thanks, Rose. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, depending on where you're joining us from around the country. We're glad you guys can make it out. It's unique that ultimately will allow you guys to build additional pipeline in ways that maybe you haven't thought of. So really today is about giving you guys those new ideas specific to non-QM and to Lensure. And joining me today, we've actually have a few senior account executives here in Salt Lake City, Utah, as well as down in Florida, that will be helping us present some of these ideas and discuss them. So just by way of introduction, my name is Jeremy Drews. I'm one of the regional managers here at Lensure. I've been with Lensure since 2018. Prior to Lensure, I joined Accredited Home Lenders and came to the business in 2005 and have been in the business ever since then. So really glad that again we've been able to have a major impact on the market here and do some really great things, and that's a little bit about me. So let's turn it over to Summer, and Summer, if you can take a minute just to introduce yourself.
Yes, thanks so much. Hi, Jeremy. Hi, everybody. My name is Summer Toscano. I am an account executive in the state of Florida, as well as I handle some national accounts throughout the country. I have been with Lensure since 2019. I date back to the early 2000s in the subprime market. I too was with Accredited Home Lenders and have a lot of knowledge when it comes to structuring loans.
Thank you, Summer. And then let's go to Brandon.
Thanks, Jeremy. Morning, afternoon, everyone. Good to be here with you guys. I'm looking forward to hopefully giving you some good insights on how to grow business right now in the market that we're in. Name's Brandon Kelderman, account executive here for, I want to say 3.5 years, coming up on 4. Was in the military as well as doing government intelligence for about 8 years. Moved out to Salt Lake City, Utah, got into sales, got out of the military, and been in the mortgage business for 3.5, 4 years now, and absolutely loving it. So looking forward to chatting with you.
Great, thanks, Brandon. Then last but not least, Tanner Williams.
Hey guys, really excited to have you guys on. So my name is Tanner Williams. I've been with the company now for about 2 years. Before that, I was actually a software engineer. I graduated with a degree in computer science. So complete 180 flip away from being a hermit and writing code all day to being in the mortgage industry and talking to you guys and helping you structure deals. But that analytical approach is something that we really value here, with our underwriting experience that we have all our account executives have. So it's something that we really value in helping you guys close more loans.
Thanks, Tanner. Okay, so today we want to tell you a little bit about us and who we are, but ultimately, again, today is really about going through some different ideas and some practices and some unique ideas that hopefully will help you guys build more pipeline. But let's start out with just a little bit about Lensure, so you guys have some background on us. We were founded in 2015, but prior to that, we actually, as many of you have heard in the call today, many of us came from Accredited Home Lenders. If any of you have been in the business for a number of years prior to 2008, we were a subprime wholesale bank. We started roughly in the mid-90s and went all the way to about 2007. And then 2007, we sold out to a hedge fund by the name of Lone Star. And then a couple years later, rebranded under Lensure Financial. We all thought that the secondary market would return a little bit sooner than it did. But we ended up doing quite a bit of fix and flip business and retail loans from about 2009 until 2015. 2015, we had another hedge fund by the name of Ellington Financial approach us and said, hey, we think it's about time to jump back into the non-QM market. We feel that there's a good market coming back, and we want to partner with you guys, become your main investor. And so we shut down the retail side of things and ultimately rebranded under Lensure Mortgage Corp in 2015 and became wholly just 100% wholesale non-QM bank at that point. We are headquartered in San Diego, California, but we do have major operation centers and offices all over the country, in Rhode Island, in Georgia, as I mentioned, Salt Lake City, Utah, where Tanner and Brandon join us from, also in Missouri. We've been securitizing loans since about 2017. We securitize anywhere between $300 to $400 million in loans, and ultimately have been doing that again since 2017. Many of us, including myself and Summer, but also our senior management team, came from accredited. So you are dealing with a very seasoned management team, and of course a very deep background in both non-QM and subprime lending that you guys can hopefully feel confident and lean on for some good guidance going forward in what we do. We're currently approved in 48 states, as you'll see here in the map. The only 2 states that we're not currently approved to do owner-occupied properties right now is South Dakota and New York. However, we can do investment properties in those states, or otherwise known as business purpose loans. So just about everywhere else we are licensed, and hopefully we can service whatever needs you guys have from that standpoint. So again, today we want to lead with some unique programs that gives you guys hopefully some new ideas to build additional pipeline, especially in this challenging market. We'll start there, what those programs really look like and how they're unique, not only to non-QM, but specifically to Lensure. We'll then move on to some specific hotbeds around the country that we believe many of you will be able to delve into for non-QM business. And again, some different ideas in specific geographic regions of the country that you guys can turn to help build additional pipeline. We'll talk about targeting property investors. The one thing that we see as still a mainstay here in this challenging market is the interest that investors have in purchasing and refining investment properties, and some of the things that we can do to help you guys build that business and provide them some unique services. We'll move on to exhausting all of your options before you turn down a loan. We want to make sure that every single one of you are armed with some of the tools and some of the information you need to know where you have outlets to turn to before you turn down a loan. And then finally, where is there an opportunity for you to build a partnership here with Lensure? And we'll finish off with that, and then some marketing material that Rose will discuss at the very end. So to begin with, we're going to start off with some unique programs here that we, again, believe are not only unique to non-QM, but unique specifically to Lensure, and some things that hopefully you guys can take back to the field and to market with not only your teams, but also specifically with many of the real estate agents that you guys partner with as well. So to start out with, we want to discuss what our bridge loan program can do for you. Now, I'll just start by saying, a bridge loan is certainly nothing new to the industry, right? Bridge loans have been around for as long as we can all remember. But there are some unique aspects of our bridge loan program. And so to take us through some of those things, and where, again, you guys can see hopefully some major value in building some new pipeline, we're going to have Summer talk to us about our bridge loan. So Summer, can you take us through our bridge loan, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Jeremy. I'd like to apologize, everyone. I'm having camera issues, so I apologize for that. So our bridge loan, this product is one of the hottest products on the market right now. We designed this product to give your borrower buying power. It's for the borrower who needs to sell their current home in order to buy a new home. So Lensure will allow your borrower to do an equity pullout on their departure home and use that equity toward the purchase of a new home. We do have to fund both the bridge loan and the purchase loan. But the beauty of our bridge loan is that there are no monthly mortgage payments associated with that bridge. Your borrower is only qualifying on the purchase mortgage from a DTI perspective. So they're getting 2 loans, but only one has a payment that goes into their DTI. The bridge loan is a 1-year balloon loan. Your borrower has 1 year to sell that departure property. There's no prepayment penalty on that. So as soon as they sell that departure, that bridge loan is paid off. Another beauty of this product is that the borrower has the ability to go into a non-contingent offer. With the market shifts, there have caused a lot of sellers to be nervous about going into contracts with a buyer who needs to sell their home first. So we will do a pre-qualification for your borrower, lining up all the bridge numbers, lining up all the purchase numbers for them, even if the purchase property is a TBD. And once they are fully pre-qualified, your borrower has that confidence to go into a contract, non-contingent, and close that loan as soon as possible. So it really is a great product for the borrower that is looking to buy now and sell later.
Summer, I got a question. So what about, you said no monthly payments, but what about the existing mortgage, if there's an existing mortgage on the departure property?
So what we do is through that equity pullout on the existing property, it is a cash out refi. So we do pay off any liens that are on that property, and whatever is left over is cash that they can use toward the down payment of the new property. So that departure property will ultimately have one lien on it, which will be our bridge loan.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Summer. So, there's always some, unique ways to present the bridge loan to prospective borrowers and also agents. And so, Summer, maybe you can kind of take us through some of the best practices that you use in presenting the bridge loan and, getting them comfortable with, the terms and, ultimately the benefit to everybody involved.
Sure, yes, absolutely. So, it's a tricky market right now, and borrowers are under the gun thinking they have to sell their house really, really quickly. Perhaps they're relocating and they have to buy a new house, or perhaps they found the house of their dreams and they want to buy it now, but they're nervous about how quick they can sell their departure house. So, we give them that confidence. It is designed for someone that does have equity in their current home. We do go up to a 75% LTV on that bridge refi. So it gives them that confidence to pull out that equity, buy the house they need now and sell that later. It makes borrowers feel very good. They're not rushed with having to get their departure house all beautiful and ready to go to market. They can focus on buying that new house, getting themselves settled in that new house, and then sell that departure somewhere along the way over the next year.
Totally. Brandon, anything else you'd add?
Yeah, the only other thing I would add is just communicating with agents about this program. I think there's not a better opportunity right now to communicate with new agents that maybe you haven't in the past, get into new offices, get into offices that maybe you haven't worked with in a while, and ask them one simple question: how many deals do you have sitting around waiting for the client to sell their house first? And they'll tell you almost all of them. Obviously, as we've seen rates get higher and higher, less first-time home buyers are qualifying. So what that means for us in the mortgage industry and your agents as well is, almost every buyer right now is having to be a seller first, right? So this bridge loan program is a massive tool for your agents to, one, get deals moving and get their clients into their new house, but also it's an assistance program to them to be able to give them the proper time to list and market that property that the seller or that their clients are selling, and get a higher purchase price on those as well. So that's the only thing I would add is it's an amazing program to get in front of agents right now because it's something that they're really struggling with.
This program is interesting in that it's almost always an optional program, right? The borrower always has the option to sell their house first. So I think really the key point here is in that selling the bridge loan, you really have to demonstrate to the borrower the benefit of it, right? And that comes with primarily selling their home for more than if they didn't do the bridge loan in the first place, right? Because when you first pitch this idea to them and they start to realize, oh, well, it's 2 loans, I got 2 sets of closing costs, I need an appraisal on my departing as well as on the purchase, right? They're going to start to get a little bit of sticker shock, and they're going to be like, oh, the fees are just so high. But you really have to help them understand, if they were to fire sale their departing residence, they're going to have to take a 20, 30 grand cut on their sales price just to get, an all cash buyer to swoop in that can close quickly, right? Versus if instead I do the bridge loan and I move out, get all my furniture out of there, right? Stage it with some brand new furniture, put down a fresh coat of paint, replace the, handles and knobs on the cabinets, and all those little things that you do to really get the home into a place where now all of a sudden you have people in a bidding war, right? And that's going to sell for 20 or 30 over asking. And that's a total of a $40,000 to $60,000 swing there that not only covers the fees and stuff that are associated with the bridge, but it also potentially puts you out on top, where you walk away with more money in your pocket than if you hadn't done the bridge in the first place, right? So that swing in sales price is a critical thing to talk about when you talk to the agents and the borrowers about the bridge loan.
Thanks, Tanner. Just a couple final thoughts on the bridge loan. This program was originally designed to be a primary residence to a primary residence type of program. I've got my current primary residence, but my wife just found her dream home, and I just can't pass up on it. And so let's do what we can to leverage the equity in our current home and get out and make sure we take advantage of the new opportunity right away. And again, this was designed for that type of situation. It was also designed really originally for the home that was going to be sitting on the market for 2, 3, 4+ months. And when the market got hot, it was surprising to us that this program became even hotter for us. And the reason being is because as quick as their departing may sell, the new property they found was going to sell just as quickly. So those borrowers just simply could not afford to go into that contract as a contingent offer. They need to go in with a non-contingent offer, and the bridge loan allowed them to pull the trigger immediately and purchase the new home right off the bat. The final thing that I'll mention here is this is also spun off into an investment to an investment type of program as well, utilizing a reverse 1031 exchange, which we'll get into later on in this presentation. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But again, I would probably argue that this program is our hottest program right now, and something for you guys to definitely think about taking advantage of to not only build more pipeline for yourselves, but really become more of a value add to the agents that you work with as well. So moving on from this, we are going to go into another unique program, and this one is designed for the brand new self-employed borrower. And when I say the brand new self-employed borrower, we're talking about someone who in many cases have been W-2'd, a wage earner for many years, now going into the exact same line of work, but now as a 1099, and have just gone into that new self-employed job as recently as one pay period ago. So take us through that.
Jeremy, I'm sorry, before we move on from bridge loans, I do have a couple of questions from the audience. There's a couple of people asking about the maximum LTV on this program.
So the maximum LTV. Oh, go ahead, Jeremy.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So the maximum LTV on the bridge part, the refinance is 75%. And on the purchase loan, right now it's at 80% on a primary. I think we're finalizing numbers if we did an investment to investment, Jeremy?
Yeah, so we're typically around 65. So we're hedging down a little bit on the investment, but call it about 65% on an investment versus 75 and 80 on the primary. But again, we'll get into that investment bridge with a reverse 1031 a little bit later in this presentation. But hopefully that gives you at least some parameters to work off of for the bridge loan.
And Sherry wants to know, so that means if a person takes 3 months to buy their house, it means that they have no mortgage payments for 3 months?
Yeah, that's correct. Tanner, I'll let you field that question.
Yeah, so just to clarify that, the way that works. So we don't do the bridge and then give you the cash and then you go shopping, right? We do the bridge loan and the purchase loan concurrently. So it's basically like a 2-pack that kind of travels through the system together. And the cash from the bridge actually goes straight to escrow that applies it to the purchase, right? So we'll do a TBD pre-approval for you, and we do this on all of our loans. It's not just bridge loans, but we do TBD pre-approvals where we kind of fully pre-underwrite the file. We send it up to senior management. They issue a loan decision, right? Someone that's 2, sometimes 3 pay grades higher than the underwriter that eventually gets it. And so we know like very, very certainly and solidly that we're going to do this loan, and they'll take that TBD pre-approval and they'll go out and submit offers, right? And so they're still, with their old mortgage, right, doing their own regular payments, right, until they go under contract on that new house, and then we execute and close both of these loans at the same time. We'll get into this a little bit when we talk about the reverse 1031, because that is a little bit different with the investment nature of things. But in that case, you're able to collect rents, right, on that departing house, that house that you're intending to sell, for the entire 6 months that you're, doing the bridge loan that has no payments due. So that bump in that cash flow on that existing rental that you have is something that, very much aligns with your question.
Are there any restrictions by state on a bridge loan?
Yeah, so for the most part, the answer is no. There are some unique laws in Texas, the Homestead Act, that do restrict us from doing bridge loans in that state. So Texas is a little bit more challenging. There are some workarounds that we have really come up with down there, but generally speaking, for most of the country, there really are no restrictions.
Okay, and then what is the bridge loan full doc only? What's the documentation like?
Yeah, another great question. Brandon, do you want to handle that one?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So bridge loan is not its own program in the sense that you have to have full doc W-2 borrowers. In fact, what I'll tell you is in the past, bridge loan was oftentimes used by very wealthy borrowers that were using a bank statement loan anyways as a self-employed borrower, or an asset depletion loan or something along those lines. We have a lot more borrowers nowadays that are everyday W-2 full doc borrowers that are using the bridge, but you can do a bridge loan with any of our alternative documentation programs, such as bank statements, asset depletion, asset qualifier, you name it, even potentially DSCR on an investment to investment. So the income type is available to all of our different income types across the board. So.
And I have several people asking what happens if they can't sell their house within the year. What are their options?
Yeah, so the balloon payment does come due. So again, just to cover the terms of the bridge loan again, right? It is a 12-month balloon payment. There is no payment due for those 12 months or until the property sells, whichever comes first. So going back and make sure that we answer that previous question. But if the bridge property does not sell within those 12 months, okay, the bridge property loan is due in those 12 months. We will be looking obviously to figure out how to either refi that loan out into something else with another lender. It's possible to even look at a refi into one of our investment programs and make that an investment property, if that makes sense. But we will need to come up with a solution to refi and pay off the bridge loan in those 12 months as it will become due at that point.
All right, great. And I've got several questions about the replay and the slide deck. Yes, look for an email about it from me, Rose Waldy, about an hour after the webinar concludes, and you will see a link to the slide deck and a recording of this webinar that you can share with your team. One last question on the bridge loan is, where's the calculator for the bridge loan? That's on our website, lensure.com, and it's a really excellent tool. You just plug in some numbers and it'll tell you the available cash out that's available. It lets you plug in the new purchase so that you can really see see the scenario, and you can present those details to a realtor or to a borrower.
Yeah, and beyond the calculator, and one of the themes you're going to continue to hear throughout this presentation is we really encourage you to reach out to your local account executive and have that discussion with your AE on any of these scenarios. They can also help you put together, what exactly the cash is going to look like, the cash in hand to go take out of the departing and use for the new purchase, whether that is using its entirety or even just using a part of it. But again, we encourage you to reach out to your account executive anytime you guys have questions or scenarios on the bridge loans.
All right, we're going to address this one more time because I got a couple of questions going. Really? Is that really true that there is no monthly payments on the bridge loan? What's the catch? How does that work?
Yeah,
I can take that, Jeremy.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I can take that. So that's a common one that's going to come up is there really no payment? So the answer is yes. If you look at your loan estimate or your closing disclosure goes out, it's going to say $0 a month payment. The easiest way to describe the payment that they're making is deferred interest payments, okay? So for example, let's say that we do a $500,000 bridge loan and it takes them 3 months to sell that house. When they sell that house and they pay off the bridge loan, they're going to pay off that initial $500,000 plus 3 months of the deferred interest, right? So a conversation I have a lot with clients and agents and LOs is, Well, okay, you have a mortgage on that property now, right? That payment's coming out of your pocket every month. When you do a bridge loan with the deferred interest payments, there's no payment that we have to calculate into DTI. There is deferred interest payment. So what are we using to pay for those deferred interest payments? Well, instead of taking money out of our pocket every month to pay for that, we're actually leveraging the equity in our property to pay for those costs of getting into this new dream house, utilizing the bridge loan. So hopefully that answers your question. The easiest way to describe it, in my opinion, has always been think of it as deferred interest payments.
Yeah, it's important that it eats into that remaining 25% of your equity, right? It's not withheld up front, limits the amount of cash out that you can get, right, to go use as that down payment. It's on the tail end. It eats into your proceeds, right?
Another way to look at it is like a neg am loan, where each month your principal will grow, if that makes sense.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on so we can get through the rest of these, and then we can come back to this if we need to towards the end. So the next one, again, we want to move on to is the newly self-employed program. As I mentioned before, this is really designed for that wage earner that's been in that same line of work for several years, now moving into a new 1099 job. In many cases, it's not only the same line of work, but in some cases may even be with the same employer. Nonetheless, they have far less than 2 years self-employment to qualify for a conforming or government loan. In some cases, again, they are as newly self-employed as one pay period in the new loan. So to take us through that, Tanner, go ahead and walk us through this program.
Yeah, so what I love to really make people understand on this program, right, is we actually created it. Jeremy sat down and created this program with our president because he saw a need. And so it really falls in line with who we are as an identity. We're a common sense lender, right? We figure out, do we think this borrower is going to perform? Do we think they're going to pay back our loan? If so, and they don't meet guidelines, we often are granting exceptions to do that loan, and sometimes even so far as creating a program for it, right? So, we saw a lot of doctors that were switching hospitals, right? And they were going from one that paid them W-2 to one that paid them 1099. But realistically, it was a pay increase, right? They were changing jobs and being paid as a 1099 to make more money, not less, right? And we could easily qualify them, off their old W-2 if for whatever reason they had to go back, right? So that was kind of the basis for how we designed this loan. We say, let's take a look at their prior earnings, right? Same line of work, which is good. Do we qualify on that, right? And then let's take a look at what their contract looks like, right? The 1099 contract that they sign, whether that's as a doctor, a CRNA, a software engineer, right? All kinds of different professions this might apply to. And what's written in there? Are there guaranteed minimums, right? How beefy is this as far as what we know they're going to be making? And in some cases, we can lend with as little as one pay period on that new 1099 job where we show, look, their pay stub lines up exactly with what their contract guarantees they're going to get. So it is a 1099, but it kind of looks and feels like a W-2, right? So that's really where this program was designed. And then we kind of saw it expand from there. And we said, okay, well, what about people that don't have that contract, right? What about people that are buying into an existing business, which we see a lot with lawyers, right, that are buying into partnership? They're making a lot of money, right? And so, we're looking a little bit closer to 6 to 12 months there to kind of get an idea of, hey, is this business running just as well as it was before our borrower came on board, right? Can we get financials from this business going back before our borrower was involved, right? And kind of compare and contrast and say, hey, they've only been, bought in for 6 months, but business has only gone up from there, right? And they could easily qualify even off their old W-2 if they had to go find another job somewhere else. So then we started seeing people, that are buying an existing business outright, right? They're now 100% owner. People that don't have any contract but are still 1099, we see a lot of truck drivers, right, that are buying their own rig, picking up jobs from junkyards and car dealerships, right, in different places. And there's no guarantees there, but we can get 12 months and say, hey, for a year, they've had an established pattern of, making enough money to meet the DTI requirements. And so we're going to write this loan. And then same thing with, I'm starting a business from scratch, brand new. I tell people, look, people that are newly self-employed are going to be taking full advantage of tax write-offs, right? They're going to be doing everything they can to write their income as low as possible to pay the IRS as little as possible. So even if you do wait for a full 2 years, right, and you say, well, instead of doing non-QM, let's just wait 2 years and do a conforming loan, 9 times out of 10, you're not even gonna be able to do that anyway, right? Because they're gonna have no income shown on paper on their taxes. So if they're gonna need a bank statement loan anyway, might as well get them into the house today, right? Rather than waiting, a year plus, depending on when the business started and how that lines up with tax filing dates and things of that sort. Get them into the house now. They're starting to get some equity and some appreciation there, and date the rate, right? Marry the home. You can always refinance down the road if they do end up qualifying for Fannie Freddie. But it gets you some potential future business, right? You get the purchase now and then potential refi down the road. So tons of potential with this program. It's like bridge loans, one of the programs that you really won't find anywhere else. Very unique to LendSure, and it's something that we're very proud of, and really speaks to how we look at lending and how we look at risk, where we say, this is a great borrower, it's a great loan. Doesn't really matter what the guidelines say. We're gonna write the loan.
Okay, great. And I'm seeing some questions that are very specific with specific scenarios. I want to give you as complete and accurate information as possible. So I'm going to be addressing those specific questions individually after the webinar.
Yeah, thanks, Rose. Yeah, so this program really came about, and then we still most commonly see the 1099 physician, okay? So while it does address the truck driver, while it does address the lawyer, really any career professional, the most common 1099 brand new self-employed situation is still the physician that they've been a physician for several years, possibly even with the same hospital, but now it just makes sense for them to move into a 1099 contract with that clinic or that hospital. They simply have an opportunity to make more money. And so because it's the same line of work, we will take that contract with the hospital, connect that and draw that back to the previous wage earner job as a physician, and get it done that way. And in most cases, these are very, very strong borrowers. 700 plus FICOs, great asset positions. Obviously, the income is strong. It's just new and laid out in the new 1099 contract. In most cases, they're not first-time home buyers, although we will see young physicians that are buying their first homes as well in some of these cases. So physicians, CRNAs, those are still the most common. That will actually lead into our next discussion, which is the hotbeds for non-QM, and specifically where some of these physicians fall into that as well. So to take us through the non-QM hotbeds, Brandon, go ahead and tell us a little bit about where geographically there might be some areas to have these folks look at.
Yeah, and I don't want to spend too much time on this. We spent a lot of time on the bridge, which is awesome. I'm glad to see that. But why do we want to talk about non-QM geography? Well, that's important for you guys to know, hey, what areas can I market different products in, right? So first and foremost, I can't recommend enough that you reach out to your account executive and ask them about specific areas and say, hey, what have you seen in this area that's been common for you guys on the non-QM side that I can market to, right? But typically you're going to look at areas with high self-employment rates, right? Tons of self-employed clients in those areas like San Francisco, Los Angeles, Miami's a big one, Scottsdale, Austin, Denver, Nashville, all over the country. There's these growing hotspots of self-employed borrowers. Not to mention, there's estimates that over 50% of the workforce is going to be self-employed by the year 2027. So talk about a better time to get a grasp on bank statement loans and being able to show more income than these borrowers that are self-employed, taking advantage of those tax benefits of writing off expenses and showing lower income, right? So looking in these high self-employment areas, like the areas you see on the screen there for bank statement loans. Then you get into the tech and medical profession areas. Kind of ties into exactly what Jeremy and Tanner were just talking about newly self-employed borrowers. So nurses, Jeremy already mentioned physicians, but nurses are another perfect example of clients that are consistently a W-2 for 5 years, and then they realize I can make way more money as a 1099, and I can write more off on taxes. I'm going to go be a 1099. A lot of times at the same exact hospital in the same exact position, they're just now a 1099. They're newly self-employed. Now they can't get a home loan, right? So looking in these areas for tech and medical meccas, Silicon Valley is a good one for tech, right? Tech is another industry that you consistently have clients starting new businesses, buying into businesses, switching from W-2 employees to 1099, et cetera, et cetera. So looking for those areas where those are common is going to help you a lot. And then last but not least is, oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Brent, I was just going to say that there are a couple of different questions about limitations on the job titles. Is it good for techs as well? Can contract nurses do this? Is it just for physicians, things like that?
Yeah, so contract nurses is a really good example. So a lot of it ties back to what Tanner mentioned, where a lot of what we do is common sense lending, right? Less than 2 year self-employed borrowers do not fit within guidelines. Now, that being said, we do a ton of them, right? So what it's going to come down to is those common sense compensating factors that we're going to look for, right? Are they in the same line of work that they were prior, or is this a brand new business, right? I'll give you guys, just to play devil's advocate a little bit, I'll give you guys an example, one that we couldn't do, right? So we had a borrower that lived in Utah, owned a Thai food restaurant for 20 years. They moved to Texas a month and a half ago and opened a new Thai food restaurant, sold the one in Utah. Unfortunately, there's just no way for us to know market-wise if that Thai food restaurant in Texas that's been open for a month is going to produce the same exact results that the Thai food restaurant in the state of Utah produced for 20 years, right? In that case, we want to see at least, to Tanner's point, a year of that income being consistent and reliable for that new business, right? Whereas you have different scenarios, right? A truck driver, like Tanner mentioned, is a perfect example. They've been a W-2 as a truck driver for this company for 4 years, and now they just switched to 1099. Well, common sense tells me that switching in the same industry from a W-2 to 1099 is for one reason and one reason only, and that's to make more money. So why wouldn't I lend to this borrower, right? So I hope that kind of answers the question. I know it's a little bit of a gray area, but what I will tell you is when it comes to less than 2 year self-employment, it's really a common sense program. So there's no better program to call your account executive on ahead of time to talk through the scenario details and figure out, hey, is this something we can or can't do?
Brendan, what about if somebody is a W-2 and a 1099? So they got a full-time job and they've got side gigs as well. What happens there?
Can absolutely use both income types. Yep. So that actually is something we didn't touch on yet, Jeremy. I don't know if any of you guys want to touch on that, but we can combine multiple different income sources, right? So that a lot of times turns a lot of wheels for our LOs to say, hey, this deal I had last month that I didn't qualify with the W-2 income, but they had 600 grand in assets, I can combine their W-2 income with their asset depletion asset or income, right? So we can combine multiple different income sources.
Using that hybrid income has been a common practice for us for several years. I mean, we really saw the acceleration of the gig worker, the gig economy worker, especially when COVID really started to roll out. And so it wasn't uncommon for us to see that wage earner who all of a sudden now wanted to start a side business and actually started to show some pretty good results after a year or two, and ultimately needed to use both sources of income to qualify, and we were able to do that. So that's not something that's too uncommon for us. As Brandon said, it just has to make sense, right? How long have they been doing the self-employed job in those situations, right? What is the consistency of that income? Ultimately, what can we expect to see that income look like in the future, right? And so again, we just need to take a look at the history and put it all together. But the common sense lending does allow us to put those two income sources together and use that hybrid income.
What's the LTV on these programs?
Yeah, so LTV really isn't so much the question, but the high level answer of that is 90% on an owner occupied purchase. Okay, the real question comes in is how long again have they been in that job? How stable is that income? How predictable is that future income, right? That ultimately will determine, do we want to take a risk at 90% LTV on a purchase? Or is it a newer self-employed situation like we were talking about in the previous slide, right? Where they've been in the job for one pay period, 2 pay periods. We obviously make the exception to do that, but we may hedge our risk by lowering that LTV from 90 down to, let's say, 80 or 70 or something. So that's where it becomes a lot more subjective to the borrower and the history as a program. But the technical answer is we'll still go up to 90% if it makes sense.
Okay, great.
And then, the last thing again is to touch on number 3. Brandon, can you just touch on this number 3 real quick? Because I think that these, geographic hotspots are really something for everyone to consider, because they are, areas that have property types that so many agents as well as lenders shy away from, that, hey, gosh, there just isn't a financing option for some of these types of properties, whereas we, really focus on these areas because of the type of property. So Brandon, go ahead and touch on some of these.
Yeah, well, one quick note to blow everyone's mind a little bit is, believe it or not, there are a lot of cases that non-QM loans can price better than conforming loans. And that is in these areas, those second homes, those jumbo loans, and those investment transactions. So not only do we have property types, as Jeremy mentioned, that we can lend on that they can't have financing options on the conforming side, but there are a lot of cases that will actually be priced better. So keep that in mind. But when you think of these destination areas and second home areas, you think of the places like in our backyard, Park City, Utah. You've got Miami, Florida. Las Vegas is a huge one for us. North Carolina, South Carolina is picking up a lot. You think of these property types like condotels and non-mortgagable condos. So condotels, we can absolutely lend on those. That's a huge resource for you guys to go market to agents and builders and say, hey, I have a long-term financing option. I'll let Tanner touch on real quick on condotels too about we've been in Utah for, our region's been here, I want to say 3 years now, right? And we've closed tons and tons of condotel deals in Park City, which is right in our backyard. But still to this day, we still see agents listing these properties as cash-only properties. They don't realize that there's lending out there, right? Let alone all the clients that just went in and bought condotels in all cash to go back and tell them, hey, I can pull 65% of your money back out with a condotel refinance with Linsure, so you can then go buy 2 more properties. So, Tanner, I do want to let you touch on condotels too and touch on the importance of that.
Yeah, so I mean, condotel is becoming, more and more prevalent, not only in your ski resort areas, right, like Park City in Colorado, but also in like St. George's, Lake Tahoe's, right? Really any place that is a second home destination, you're seeing condotels pop up, and then they're even starting to pop up in urban centers. So you're talking about like downtown LA, San Francisco, Massachusetts, right? All kinds of different places that you just even wouldn't expect them to be, and yet there they are. So it's becoming more and more popular. So it's something that you definitely need to have a handle on. And to Brandon's point, right, with them being owned so many free and clear, it's a fantastic opportunity and some low-hanging fruit to just say, hey, financing on these does exist, and it's actually way better than hard money or anything else that they may default to and think, oh well, yeah, of course there's financing on everything if you go hard money, right? And our terms, our rates, right, being able to do 30 and 40-year fixed, those types of things, are going to beat hard money 7 ways to Sunday. And so positioning yourself as kind of the jack of all trades, right, the loan officer that is able to finance things that nobody else can finance, is something that is very, very valuable for you in building your book of business and your referral partners.
Yeah, and one thing I just want to touch on real quick, I just want to underscore the importance of, the situation of second homes right now, right? Brandon touched on it, right? We actually, in many cases, are pricing better than your conforming or your jumbo prime options. Why? Because the LLPAs are just ridiculous right now. It's not uncommon for us to see a loan come our way that was priced conforming or jumbo prime that has an 8.5% rate, but comes with 2 to 4 points. We may be that same 8.5% rate, but a par. So that's a good example of where you may want to turn to us and start to at least do some price comparisons just for pricing alone on those second homes because of the current LLPAs. So another big opportunity for you guys to make more second home business in some of these areas especially.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll touch on, I want to give you guys a quick example of the importance of understanding the non-QM hotbeds and where they're at and leveraging your account executive to find those. Got an LO partner that I met, I want to say 2.5 or 3 months ago, that's it, down in Florida with one of my brokers. And he has sent us, I think we funded 8 or 9 loans in 2 months for foreign national borrowers using DSCR. And you'll see on that last point, short-term rentals, right? So in the Miami area, he's leveraging his relationships to build relationships with foreign national borrowers to utilize DSCR and also utilize short-term rent. So we have one client that we've closed multiple loans on DSCR for that we actually use short-term rents for our DSCR calculation, which we'll touch on in the next slide. But we're getting rents back on some of these properties using short-term rents at $15,000. One of them was $19,000 a month. So we can cash flow any of these properties for these foreign national borrowers. He's just chosen to highlight, hey, this area is big on foreign nationals. Brandon, take the time to teach me and coach me up and coach my agents on how do we go find these foreign national borrowers and how do we find these DSCR loans in Florida, right? So hopefully that gives you guys kind of a good example of how important it is to know the areas and what's booming in those areas as far as non-QM opportunity.
Brandon, what is the maximum LTV on condotel loans?
Condotels, off the top of my head, I want to say it's 75 right now if we use income to qualify. Is that right, Tanner? Okay.
I'd also like to add a little bit to this condo town, the non-warrantable condos. So I'm down in the state of Florida. I close a lot of loans throughout this entire state, as well as the Gulf of Mexico, Alabama, and the coastal Carolinas. We close a lot of non-warrantable condos, as well as the condotels, and we're finding Fannie and Freddie are shying away a lot from condos in general. I often get phone calls where a borrower says, I have a loan that's dying, in the 11th hour, it's a condotel. And I dig a little bit deep into that because sometimes Fannie will categorize a property a condotel, but a non-QM lender will not. So we will work with you to make sure your property is properly identified, but 99% of those times, your borrower is a conforming borrower. They're A++ borrower, they just happen to be buying a non-conforming property. So we do have lots of financing options for them. Like everyone has said, our rates sometimes end up pricing out better than Fannie Mae.
Thanks, Summer. Thanks, Brandon. Okay, let's move on to the next program. This next program is something that a lot of lenders have actually gotten out of this space. We have not. We actually have accelerated in this space. And so we want to talk about our foreign national program. So to discuss that, Tanner, go ahead and discuss our foreign national program.
Yeah, so I won't go through each of the bullets on this slide. This is just more about identifying who foreign nationals are, because we still get tons and tons of phone calls of like, hey, I got a borrower who needs an ITIN loan or needs a foreign national loan, and you start to ask some questions and dig into it, and you're like, actually, they don't fit on that program at all. They fit on this program, right? So really what I want to call out here and focus on is similar to condotels. Foreign national borrowers own homes free and clear in the US more so than any other borrower type, right? So they either, with the language barrier or just for simplicity and ease, just bought in cash because they didn't think that financing was an option, or at least not long-term financing. So there's tons of low-hanging fruit here to go out and identify, these properties and these borrowers and say, hey, I can get you up to 60, 65% of your cash back that you can again go and use for buying more investment properties in the United States. So that's an important thing to call out, but also to Jeremy's point, we've actually accelerated on our aggressiveness on this program where a lot of our competitors have backed off, and primarily that shows in second homes. So on foreign national loans, most of the foreign national programs you'll find are structured as DSCR. It's an investment purchase. It looks just at the cash flow of the property, and that's it. But we see a lot of borrowers that do want to occupy for part of the year, right? I'm buying in Park City, or I'm buying in Las Vegas and coming down for Formula One, right? Or whatever it is. And I want to be able to stay there when I'm there. And there's other benefits as well to this, right? We don't have a prepayment penalty on anything second home or owner occupied. So multiple different reasons a borrower might want to call it a second home instead of an investment, but we can actually look at income for the borrower in the form of basically a written verification of employment, essentially from their employer or from their CPA or tax preparer if they're self-employed. And we can underwrite it with the DTI and do it as we meet ATR right loan rather than as a business purpose investment only loan. So that's something that's very unique to us and something that we see a lot of, just because similar to bridge loans, similar to less than 2 years self-employed, there's just not options out there for it.
Thanks, Tanner. Okay, moving on, just again in consideration of time, I want to move on to targeting property investors. Again, targeting property investors is really a sweet spot for us, and something we want to make sure that you guys are kind of gaining some mind share with us on. Of course, we're in a very challenging rate environment. Everybody knows that. But the one area that we see that borrowers are not as sensitive, of course they care about the rate, no question about it. But the targeting the property investor, that investor is really more focused in many cases on the cash flow of the property, the opportunity that poses, the opportunity they see again with the appreciation and value of the home, as opposed to just the rate, right? And so this has again become really a sweet spot for us, and something that's really propelled our business in some more challenging times, and something we want to make sure you guys are aware of what opportunities are here. So take us through that. Summer, go ahead and discuss what we can do with building relationships with investors.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So building relationships with investors is so important. At Lenshore, we pride ourselves on building relationships with our brokers. And the purpose of that is to build on each other's success. We hope to close one loan with you, have a successful transaction, and close many more. It kind of works the same way with investors. We encourage you to build relationships with them because typically a true investor is not a one and done. So as you close your first loan with that investor, they will be back to close many more. I cannot tell you how many times I have closed repeat loans for investors. They are, they're not looking for the best rate in town, although the rate is important. They're looking for maximizing their, investment, their income opportunity for their cash and their portfolio to grow. So as you build relationships with them, you are consistently building your own income and your opportunities, whether they buy one property now and another property 2 months later, 6 months later, a year later, they tend to be lifelong clients. So it is extremely important to build that relationship with them, as well as it's important for us to build relationships with you. So everything we do with you is based on honesty and trust and educating you on our product. And we encourage you to do the same thing with the borrowers as well when it comes to their investment opportunities. We have many investment products available, one of which is the DSCR that tends to be a phenomenal product for the investor that does have a large portfolio of REO. So on this DSCR product, which stands for Debt Service Coverage Ratio, this product does not need any income. What makes the property qualify is the projected rent on the property needing to cover the proposed mortgage payments. They can get a full principal and interest payment, or they can get an interest-only option. They can use short-term rent. They can also close in an LLC. They don't have to, but they do have the option to close in an LLC, as well as use 1031 money. We can close multiple loans for one investor, as well as that investor can own many properties. There's no limit on how many properties they own. Those properties are usually listed on your 1003. Sometimes properties are vested in an LLC name. Those usually are not listed on the 1003. It's considered a light doc deal. We are not interested in non-subject properties. So therefore, you are not providing mortgage statements for properties that you own. You're not providing tax information, escrow information. All of that information, again, is listed on your 1003. The focus is your subject. We just want to focus that your projected rent is going to cover your projected mortgage payment. And due to the fact of it being a light doc deal, it tends to close very, very quickly.
Thanks, Summer. And one thing, again, going back to building relationships with these investors, I can't underscore the importance enough of that second to last bullet, no limit on the number of properties financed. Where Fannie and Freddie obviously has their limits at 10 properties owned, we don't have that limit. But take that concept of an investor that has 15, 20, 30 properties, and then combine that with the power of DSCR, right? This light doc option that allows them to only have to disclose information on the subject property, as opposed to pulling up, Schedule E's and income docs and taxes and hazard insurance on every single REO they have, which is a very scary prospect for some of these investors that have 20, 30 properties. We avoid that with his DSCR program. So combining, again, that with building relationships with these investors, there's no better way to do that than to take this information to your agents and let them know we've got options for those investors that you're working with that yet want, have 20, 30 properties, want to buy more, but they really, really are scared off of having to disclose every bit of information on every single REO. That's where this program can really circumvent that whole process. So.
This product is also available on single-family homes, multi-unit homes, condotels, non-warrantables. It's offered on almost every property type that we have out there, as well as 5 to 8 units we have this product for.
Summer, can it be a non-arm's length transaction? I'm not sure what that means.
It can be an arm's length transaction, but that will be something that we do have to look deeper into, perhaps discuss with senior management, just to make sure there's no red flags on the transaction.
And I've got a couple of different questions about investor experience. Do they have to be a seasoned property investor? Can they be a first-time investor?
They do not have to be a seasoned property investor. We do offer this product to a first-time investor. There are some overlays, and the LTV is typically scaled back a little bit, but it definitely is available for first-time investors.
And are there any reserve requirements?
Yes, we do require 6 months reserves. As in any of our products, we do have our foundation of guidelines that we work off of, but we do allow deviations to the guidelines based on compensating factors. So, in this case, it is 6 months reserves. If they happen to have a little bit less, is that a deal killer? Absolutely not.
And to be clear, that reserve requirement's only on the subject property, right? Not on every property they own.
Mm-hmm.
And do they have to have a primary residence in their name?
So the guidelines do call for them owning a primary residence. However, we have closed many loans for borrowers that do not own a primary. I have one right now. The borrower lives at home with family, but they own 4 investment properties. They just choose to put their money in the market and live with their family. We looked at the credit, we looked at the overall profile. It made complete sense to us, and we moved forward with getting that loan approved in lieu of the borrower owning a primary residence. So the guidelines do call for that, but there is plenty of room for exception with compensating factors and, of course, common sense.
And finally, what's the minimum credit score for DSCR?
I think right now it's at a 640 or 660, Jeremy. I know we made some changes recently.
Yeah, 660 right now, but we have done some with exception below that where it makes sense.
Okay.
And then for those who are new to DSCR, especially considering we're not using any income to qualify, Brandon, why don't you take us through the calculation and how DSCR is calculated?
Yeah, it's pretty simple actually. To Summer's point, what we really care about is, does the subject property rents pay for our mortgage payment, right? That's ultimately what we care about. So I always tell my lows, anytime you think of DSCR, I want you to forget the term DTI. Debt to income doesn't exist anymore. We're not using income. Now we just have a DSCR ratio. So how do you guys figure out right off the bat, hey, is this actually something that could work or not, right? What you're going to do is you're going to take the market rents of the property, so either from a 1007 on the appraisal, or if we're doing a refinance, we'll grab the lease agreement. You're going to take 100% of that. So that is some confusion that some people have is we're going to order a 1007, the appraiser is going to say $1,000 a month in rent, and we have to use $750. We're not taking a vacancy factor on a DSCR calculation. So 100% of your rent divided by your new mortgage payment, whether it's a 30-year fixed, PITIA, or it's an interest-only loan, ITIA. So I bring up interest-only for a reason too. This slide gives you a good idea of how creative you really can get on DSCR to make something ratio and make it work. This is a business purpose loan for us, which means we don't have TRID to follow, which also means we now can qualify using the lower interest-only payment if we need to. So to give you guys an example, let's say that market rents were $950, but our 30-year fixed payment with taxes and insurance is $1,000. Well, that doesn't ratio. The property doesn't pay for our mortgage payment, right? So what do? We have a couple of options. One, switch to interest only. That's going to lower that mortgage payment to $950 or lower. Now we ratio, right? Maybe interest only doesn't quite get us to ratio. We also have a negative ratio option down to a 0.75. So to give you an example of what that would mean, market rents are $750. Our mortgage payment's $1,000. We could still get that loan done on a purchase transaction and lower LTVs on a refinance. And then we also now have a no ratio program for DSCR if as a last resort if we need to. So at lower LTVs with a borrower with a good FICO score, we can now essentially say, I don't care what that 1007 says. I don't care what the market rents are. The borrower's putting enough skin in the game. They've got excellent credit history. We trust that they have the ability to repay and they're going to pay this loan. So we do have a no ratio program as well. But hopefully that kind of gives you guys an idea of how creative you can really get to get a property to ratio on DSCR if you ever need to.
Thanks, Brandon.
Brandon, can we use AirDNA for short-term comps?
Tanner, you just had one of these. I'll let you elaborate on that a little bit. But yes, the short answer is yes.
Yeah, we can. We have certain guidelines and thresholds we need to meet. Even when we don't meet those, we can still sometimes grant exceptions, right? If we think it's a good loan, good LTV, good FICO, other things. So It's definitely kind of case by case if we don't meet our restrictions and requirements and the guidelines for it. But if it's in like a really hot area for short-term rents, like one of those vacation second home, right? It's on the Strip in Las Vegas, something like that. We typically do meet the minimum requirements, and we're able to qualify just off that air DNA. So there's a lot of different possibilities and ways to explore using short-term rents, right? Depending on if the appraiser is willing to fill out their 1007 with short-term rents, and if air DNA works, and if it's currently being used for short-term rents, right? Maybe the appraiser isn't willing to do anything, and maybe air DNA doesn't work, but the seller is actually already short-term renting it, and they're willing to give us 12 months of data. That's something that we can look at using as well.
So just to move on again, just to be cognizant of everyone's time, I do want to get to the reverse 1031 exchange with the bridge loan. This is a hot topic, especially with your agents. This is something that in one presentation with a Sotheby's, we literally were there for 2 hours answering questions just on this program. So to take us through the reverse 1031 exchange with the bridge loan, Tanner, go ahead and take us through this.
Yeah, so obviously as properties age, your maintenance costs are going to go up, right? You're going to need to replace water heaters and just put more and more money into a home the older it gets. So we see a lot of investors that want to more or less upgrade their investment portfolio, essentially by trading out their older homes for newer homes where they're going to be able to cash flow better. Because they're going to be able to get better renters, right, in the newer homes to take care of the property better, and the maintenance costs are going to go down. So considering there's a lot of investors that want to do this and swap out their current investment portfolio, this program is going to be huge to market to them and get in front of them, because the reverse 1031 is perfect to partner with our bridge loan, right? In a regular 1031, you sell the property first and then you go buy a new one with those 1031 funds. In a reverse 1031, you buy the new property first and then you sell the old one, which is exactly what our bridge loan does, right? Exactly what that's for. So those two goals and programs align perfectly to be used in conjunction with each other. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier in the presentation, right, we're going to pay off any existing liens just as we do, when we're doing a primary bridge loan. So our bridge loan is going to be the only loan in place on that existing house that they're intending to sell. And that means they're still collecting those rents on that, right? And they're positively, heavily cash flowing with no mortgage payments due during those 6 months that they're working on doing this reverse 1031 exchange. So really, the key here, just as with the primary bridge loan, is swinging the sales price, right? Mm-hmm. Buying when the market is low and selling when it's high. So very much about trying to play the swings in the market and figure out, am I going to be able to reach for a significantly higher sales price, right, 3 or 6 months from now, versus if I do it today, and trying to put more money in your pocket at the end of the day than if you hadn't gone with the bridge loan in the first place. So the cash out that you get from that bridge is great for the down payment on the purchase, but it's also perfect for doing some minor renovations, both to the departing residence before you sell it, and also to the new residence that you pick up before you fill it with a renter, right? And hopefully you're reaching for some higher rents with some brand new carpet and paint down that you got done with the cash out from the bridge, right?
Thanks, Tanner. So there's a couple of things that I want to really underscore here of the power of this program. Number one is think about that investor that they found another investment property they want to purchase. They've got one that they want to sell, but that property, that departing property, is just not ready to be listed. They don't want to list it for a couple of reasons. Number one is they have a tenant in there under a lease for another 6 months, right? And that lease is giving them $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month. They don't want to give that up until that lease ends. Number two is maybe the property needs to be upgraded. Maybe some modifications need to be made, and they ultimately want to kind of doll it up to make sure that they're getting top dollar value out of the listing when they finally list it. The reverse 1031 gives them the opportunities with the bridge loan to accomplish both of those without waiting. So number one is they don't have to sell the property again for the 6-month period, right? We're going to give them that time to not only fix up the place, get it ready to be listed, and get top dollar out of the listing, but they continue to collect those rent payments, that $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month, until they sell it without having a payment on due to the balloon payment on the bridge loan, as we discussed, right? So that's pretty powerful when you really wrap your head around that with your investors. Number two, the power around this again also comes down to presenting this to your agents who are dealing with these investors, who those agents are just, they're doing everything they possibly can to motivate that client of theirs to list the property and sell it. They're just simply not ready, but nonetheless, that agent is having to wait around for several months to sell that property, and ultimately not just sell that property, but help them buy the new one. So this bridge loan, again, with reverse 1031, gives your agent that ability to accomplish that upfront and sell and buy the new place right at the beginning as well, without having to wait. So, considering that everybody really wins right from day one with the reverse 1031 with bridge loan program, this is where you guys can really build some value with the agents and investors that you're working with, especially considering that I don't know of anybody else in the market that's offering something like this. Reverse 1031s obviously are nothing new, no doubt about that. Bridge loans are nothing new, but the way we do our bridge loan with the concurrent closing, no payment, the way that we're now connecting this up with the reverse 1031 exchange, this is unique that you can take out to the marketplace and really provide something powerful to your agents and be a value add to them. Okay, so again, in consideration time, because we're a little bit over already, let's move on to the next thing, which is exhausting all of your options before you turn down a loan. So Tanner, go ahead and take us through exhausting some of the options and the considerations that these guys might want to think about.
Yeah, so really what this boils down to is call your account executive, right? That's to keep it short and sweet. But I always tell people you're going to want to make a stop at non-QM before you turn to hard money. And that goes for the agents too, right? You really want to drill it into their head and make sure they understand. Because I know for a fact there's scenarios that never cross your desk as a loan officer, because a know-it-all agent is like, oh, well, you're never going to be able to get financing. You're going to have to go hard money here or buy in cash or whatever it is, right? So I'd really try to help educate them on always stopping at non-QM first. And then reaching out to your account executive. I mean, you never know what new programs there's going to be. We talked a little bit earlier about hybrid income, right? Getting creative, making sure that you're using all of the borrower's assets and resources and income that they have available to them that may not seem so apparent or obvious at first. There's a handful of things that we do as a non-QM lender to calculate DTI more favorably. So I always tell people, our guidelines are completely sole and separate, right, from any of our competitors and from Fannie Freddie, right? So that includes something as simple as how do we calculate DTI? So there's a handful of loans that we do, every couple months that are full doc, straightforward, W-2, nothing weird about them loans, except you can't get them to DTI on the conforming side, but we can on our side because we're able to look at X, Y, or Z thing just a little bit differently. Usually REO schedule is the big thing there with schedulees. Ask your account executive about turn times. This one's always funny because I actually have closed loans before. They came to me because I was able to close them faster than their in-house option or competitors or whatever it is. So if you get a fallout deal and an agent comes to you and they're like, hey, I need you to save my butt on this one, and we need to close in 7 days. That's something that we actually can very realistically achieve, whereas 99% of your other options, they won't be able to do it. So it's got to be a turn down unless it comes through LendStream. And then trying to overcome objections. So really the financing of closing costs is one that I would love to spend a full 30 minutes on. It's a very unique concept to us. It's something that is going to take reps to really fully understand and see the numbers on in like live examples. But what it boils down to is we allow you to finance in some of the closing costs to the loan amount, even on purchases, right? So if you're, say, putting 30% down, right, that would normally be a 70 LTV loan. We're actually going to go up to a 72 LTV loan. We're still going to price it and decision it as if it's 70, but we're giving you a little bit higher loan because we're basically building your compensation, building some rate buy down into the loan amount, right? And upping that loan size in an effort to get their payment, their rate, and their cash to close lower. We're lowering all three of those things at the same time in return for a slightly higher loan size. So the financing of points is something that is a very common objection with people where it's like, my cash to close, it's not something that I can swing. It's like, well, what if we take a large chunk of your closing costs and actually push it into the loan amount? Is that something that you would be interested in? 9 times out of 10, they say yes.
Okay, and if anybody's interested in going more narrow and deep and in depth into any of these or any of the topics that we talked about today, I encourage you to go to YouTube to find the Lenture channel or go to our website. We have a ton of recorded webinars on a number of different topics that you might find interesting.
Yeah, thanks, Rose. And then finally, Brandon, talk about how these guys can build a partnership with us and some unique ways that we go about that.
Yeah, so I think this is our last part of the training, but I do think that this is the most important in my opinion right now. If you are doing non-QM every blue moon, but you're not leveraging your account executive, or maybe you don't have an account executive that's there to do this with, but if you're not building a partnership with an account executive on the non-QM side right now, you're missing the boat. I had this conversation with an LO the other day regarding, hey, how can I genuinely generate more non-QM business? And the number one thing I said is build a partnership, right? We all know about, hey, we want our account executive to be available. We want them to be experienced, knowledgeable. You're going to have that with Lenture account executives. You're going to have an AE that will always answer their phone. And you're also going to have an account executive that was an underwriter prior to going out into the field as an AE, which means they're going to know how to structure loans inside and out. But the biggest thing right now that I could shout at the mountaintops is getting agent events and meetings with agents set up. So what I mean by that is we will come out, we will host events with you as a partner, and we will train agents for you all about non-QM, right? We do it on a little bit higher level than we do with you guys. We're not going to dive into guidelines and programs and details. But the goal of the presentation with agents is to get their mind and their wheels turning in their mind about, hey, who can I call when I have these outside of the box scenarios? Because if agents don't know about these programs, whether we like it or not, they're turning clients away right off the bat if they're a seasoned agent and a borrower is less than 2 years self-employed, right? So we have seen massive success across the country. I've been out to San Francisco. Jeremy's been out to New Hampshire. I go up to Boise, Idaho every month for these, doing these events with our broker partners to present to your agents and train them up on non-QM as a partner of yours. So I highly, highly, highly recommend that, as well as building that partnership with your account executive. Again, we don't want to just be here as an option to save one deal every year for you. We want to be here as a business partner of yours to help you grow your business, grow your clientele by giving you more tools to your tool belt and presenting these things to your agents. So hopefully you guys learned a lot today from this. Jeremy, I think the last couple slides are just touching on marketing materials. So unless anyone else has anything to add to partnership.
Yep, exactly. We'll have you take this last piece on the.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And by the way, I've got a couple of questions about how do I get in touch with my account executive? Who's my account executive for people that may be joining us for the webinar for the first time? In about an email, you're going to be getting an email from me thanking you, including the slide deck and including all the resources and such. Go ahead and reply to that email, and I will make a personal introduction to your Lenture account executive. So I'll CC them and introduce you, and you can get started right away. So I put together a resource kit for you that includes these marketing materials. This is this has flyers, it's got email templates, it's got banners, so that you can start reaching out to your realtor partners and your borrowers right away, and you can start doing this. There's also slide decks in here, postcards, a bunch of stuff that you can start. So look for an email with a link after that. Also, I put together this white paper. It's going to be included in that link as well. It's going to have everything, a lot of the stuff that we discussed today and more. It's going to talk about uncovering market opportunities, marketing strategies, sourcing deals, program information, etc. So look for that. This QR code takes you to that resource kit as well. So with that, let's see, any other questions? Is rental income calculated net of all fees?
Sorry, can you say that one more time, Rose?
Rental income, when we're doing the rental income calculation, is that rental income net of any fees?
On DSCR, you're going to use 100% without taking out fees or a vacancy factor. When we're talking about an income loan, where we have a real estate owned schedule where they have multiple rental properties, we will take a 75% vacancy factor of those. but on DSCR, you're using 100% of the rent.
Okay. And can you touch more on the I-10 program, such as the LTV, other program information?
Yeah, so the I-10 program is certainly a program we offer, but it's, to be candid, it's not one of our strong suits. We don't do a lot of I-10 loans, but I believe what we're currently sitting at a max of 75% LTV on a purchase. There are some potential options, refi as an exception, but generally speaking, we're looking at purchase money only with a max LTV of 75% or greater.
Can we do co-ops, specifically co-ops in Seattle?
Yeah, we unfortunately we do not do co-ops. So that's something that not only comes up in Seattle, but every so often on the East Coast as well. But we do not do co-ops.
Okay. For the 1099, is there a minimum amount of time they have to show working part-time gig economy in order to use the income?
So, again, each one of these 1099 newly self-employed situations are a little bit subjective to each borrower and situation. The question again comes back to, do we have a contract from the employer? What does that contract tell us about their earnings, guaranteed earnings, how the rate of pay, things like that. And so if there's a minimum period of time for them to be 1099, the technical answer is we want at least one pay stub from the new 1099 job. But again, that will then bring up what were they doing prior to the current 1099 job? Were they in the same line of work? What were their earnings there? Who is their clientele? Do they have employees now? Right? There's just a lot that goes into it. So it's not to complicate the answer, but I would just say again, in these new self-employed 1099 situations, reach out to your account executive to discuss each one and get into the details of the history and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. Mitzi, who originally asked the question, is clarifying not 1099, but part-time work. Part-time work along with their full-time SE income, self-employed income. So if they've got, so is there a minimum? Are there requirements around that to consider the additional income?
Yes, so that's a good question, because Fannie Freddie, if you're gonna have two jobs, they actually require, I think it's 2 years, right, of history of having both of those jobs to show that that's consistent for them. Our guidelines are actually written as 6 months, but it is still subjective as far as, do we think that we have good compensating factors here? Are we pushing up against program maximums? It's the type of thing that doesn't have like an LTV cap, but like we probably wouldn't do 90 LTV with it, right? We need to have strengths in our loan to do such a short amount of time of having part-time income that we need to factor into our DTI calculation.
Okay, great. And we have a couple of questions on our foreign national program. What's the max LTV for foreign national loans? What's the max loan amount for foreign national loans?
So I'll take that one. So it was 75 for quite a while, and I think it actually will return to 75. We were one of the only lenders doing LTVs that high, so we booked a lot of those loans. So we took it away for a little bit. So right now it's 70 if we're doing DSCR and 65 if we're doing a second home. But like I said, just as we get those loans off our books and depending on what the market does, I think we will return to 75 at some point, at least for the DSCR, probably not for second homes. And max loan size is going to be dependent on LTV realistically. It goes for any program. Like our max loan size for just like a regular owner occupied purchase is 3 million, but we've gone above and beyond that, when we have great LTVs, great borrowers. So max loan size is $1 million for foreign national, but we pretty commonly, like I said, go above that to 1.5, sometimes even 2, but it's got to be very, 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 strong loan, clean loan, and very low LTVs.
What's the minimum FICO for 1099 loans?
Sorry, say that one more time.
Minimum FICO for 1099 loans for self-employed?
Yeah, so the minimum FICO is gonna be again subjective to the time in the job and all that kind of stuff. But we'll go down to FICOs as low as 600. Now, anytime we're in the 600 to 620 category, we're really looking for full doc borrowers, right? So call it really 620 to 640 plus for a 1099 borrower, but when we start getting that low on FICOs, we're probably looking for a longer history in the job as well, 2+ years. If we're talking someone who is less than 2 years self-employed, you know, we're probably talking 680 plus at least. There could be exceptions.
And one thing I wanted to add to, just for everyone to take into account while we're going through some of these scenario questions, is a lot of these are, one, a really good example of calling your account executive on these, but two, when you call your account executive on these, they should be able to give you a realistic idea right off the bat. Hey, I think we can do this or not. And then just so you guys know, if you haven't worked with Linsure, we do things a little bit backwards. So when you bring us a scenario, we are going to do a full upfront underwrite on that pre-approval. So what that means for you guys is your question of, oh, I have a newly self-employed borrower. You're going to know a yes or no answer within 48 to 72 hours of if we're going to do that loan or not, and that's the final decision right there. So just so you guys know, if you have a scenario, we can bring it in, get it in front of management if there's any exceptions on the file, and have a decision out to you within 48 to 72 hours, because we're going to fully underwrite that pre-approval for you guys.
Okay, great. And is the bridge loan program available in New York?
So
the bridge loan, is that what you said?
That's a
Yes.
tricky question. So we're not licensed in New York for any owner-occupied property. So if we're talking bridge on an owner-occ, the answer is no right now. If it's an investment, the answer is yes.
Okay, great. And with that, I want to say thank you to our speakers, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We will be sending out an email to you. Look for it in about an hour from Rose Waldy, and that will contain the slide deck and the recording and a link to those non-QM resources that I told you. Jeremy, any parting words?
No, again, just want to thank everybody for taking the time. I know we extended over the hour, and so we appreciate for those of you who are still here bearing with us. We hope this was valuable information to you guys and ultimately some new ideas that, again, allows you to go back and build some additional pipeline. Once again, we want to offer our assistance to you. We don't expect you guys to have to go back and memorize or regurgitate all this information. A lot of these programs and this information is foreign to many until you've heard it a few times. And so until you've kind of mastered it or feel comfortable with the information, I can't stress enough the importance to work with your account executive and lean on us as a resource, especially with not only your borrowers, but also your agents as well. But thank you again, everybody. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to join us.
Thank you. Summer, any parting words?
Yes, of course, I want to thank everyone. I just want to focus on the common theme of most of this presentation, and that drills down to communication and transparency. We at Lensure want to communicate the best we can to you guys so you can understand the processes, the procedures, how we're looking at your loan. We want to be transparent with you every step of the way, because the goal is to get your loan to the closing table. And if we can do it, that yes is a confident yes. And if we can't do it, we are going to give you a quick no, because we're all in this together. We are a team. This even drills down to the seller wanting that loan to close to make their money. So we understand how important it is for everyone that's on this, that's a part of the transaction. So we thank you for your time, and we look forward to working with you guys.
Awesome. Brandon, any parting words?
I think Summer hit it right on the head. And again, to Jeremy's point, hopefully today just provides more tools and resources for you guys. That's really the goal, is to help you grow business and develop partnerships together. So looking forward to chatting with you guys.
Thank you. Tanner?
Yeah, I love what Summer said about transparency. I think that's so important, because we've really built everything that we do around, being straightforward with you guys, making sure that, we're the best option when it comes to service, right? And I point to the fact that our pricing engine is on our website, right? And it doesn't require logins. It's not locked behind any walls, as kind of a testament to that, right? Where, those people that are going to shop you till they drop, right? And it's always about who can undercut on the rate. Rate is all they have to sell, right? Are the competitors that they struggle to go close loans, they have fallout, they put egg on your face, right? And they set these expectations that they can't meet, right? All they have is rate, and that's all they can sell. And our rates, we put them out there to the world. We say, this is what the rate is, and we're going to be able to close this loan 100% of the time, and we're going to do it without you pulling your hair out every single day of your life, right? So the transparency there, I think, is really important to highlight and call out, because you know, we don't sell rate. We say, you know, the rates are what they are, and we're going to make sure that we take care of you and we take care of the borrowers. And I mean, especially right now where everybody's going to be refinancing in a couple years anyway, when rates are not, you know, 8 and 9%, right? I think what matters the most is maintaining your relationships and making sure that you're able to get those hard loans done, than, you know, an eighth on rate.
All right. Well, with that, I would like to thank everybody again for joining us. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.